For 30 years, this family defended Michael Jackson. They went on Oprah, they wrote books, they testified on his behalf. And then the Michael Jackson biopic makes over $500 million at the box office, and suddenly he's a monster? I'm sorry, but I have questions because this family already signed a settlement with the Jackson estate. They already got paid, and now the payments stop. And here they are on 60 Minutes Australia. I need y'all to follow this timeline with me. Welcome to KrowndByKenzie. Let's connect these dots. Let me set the stage because not everybody knows who the Cascio family is. The Cascios are a New Jersey family, 4 siblings named Eddie, Dominic, Aldo, and Marie Nicole. Their father, Dominic Sr., met Michael Jackson in the 1980s while working as a manager at the Helmsley Palace Hotel in New York. According to reporting from Variety, Jackson and the senior Cascio struck up a friendship, and eventually this family became part of Jackson's inner circle, spending holidays at Neverland Ranch and even traveling on tour with him. Michael Jackson himself reportedly called them his secret second family. They were that close. Now, these same 4 siblings just filed a federal lawsuit against the Michael Jackson estate in February 2026, alleging that Jackson drugged, raped, and sexually assaulted all 4 of them as children. The lawsuit, which was reported on by Variety, describes Jackson as a serial child predator who, over the course of more than a decade, drugged, raped, and sexually assaulted each of the plaintiffs, beginning with some were as young as 7 or 8. And then on May 10th, this past Sunday, they sat down with 60 Minutes Australia and said all of this on camera for the world to see. Now, before we get into what they said, I need to give you the full picture because the backstory here is everything. Here's what I keep coming back to. These are not strangers who came out of nowhere with allegations. These are people who, for 30 years, looked the world in the eye and said Michael Jackson was innocent on national television. Oprah Winfrey sat down with Eddie, Frank, and Marie Nicole Cascio and asked them directly, were there ever any inappropriates with you and Michael Jackson? According to reporting from Variety, all three of them responded in unison. Never, never, and shook their heads. Eddie added that Michael couldn't harm a fly and even called him a kind of gentle soul. When Oprah asked what they thought when Michael went on trial in 2005, Eddie said, and I'm quoting from Variety's reporting, "This is ridiculous. Michael was a target, and unfortunately, he was targeted." That was 2010. They were adults. They were not children being manipulated in that moment. They chose those words. And in 2011, Frank Cascio, the 5th sibling, wrote an entire book defending Michael Jackson. 30 years of public defense on the record, in print, on television. And now, after the Michael Jackson biopic makes over $500 million worldwide, they're calling him a monster on 60 Minutes Australia. I'm not saying that automatically makes them or their allegation false. What I am saying is that the timing is something I cannot ignore, and neither should you. Now, I want to talk about this biopic for a minute because if you watched my previous video of Paris Jackson, you already have some of the context. The Michael Jackson biopic starring Michael's own nephew, Jafar Jackson, opened on April 24th and has made over $580 million worldwide, according to multiple reports. That makes it one of the biggest biographical films in history. But what happened before that movie hit theaters is important. Well, according to Variety, the original script for this biopic included the 1993 child abuse allegations as a major part of the story. But here's the thing. Those allegations involved a completely different family, a boy named Jordan Chandler and his family. That is a separate case from the Cascios entirely. Different family, different decade, different lawsuits. According to Variety, attorneys for the Jackson estate discovered after principal photography had already wrapped that there was a clause in the Chandler's family 1994 civil settlement that barred any dramatization depiction of those events in a movie. The filmmakers reportedly didn't even know this clause existed until it was too late. Well, according to Variety and Rolling Stone, the studio was forced into a 22 days of reshoots. They scrapped the entire third act. They rewrote the ending. And according to the source, the director and producer reportedly received a combined $25 million in additional compensation for overseeing that overhaul. $25 million in reshoot because of a settlement clause that said you cannot depict this publicly. Now, I'm telling you about the Chandler situation and the biopic reshoots because it established something critical. Settlement clauses connected to Michael Jackson accusations have real legal teeth. They are powerful enough to force a major Hollywood studio to spend millions of dollars redoing an entire film. So keep that in mind because now I want to talk about the Cascio family's own separate settlement because that is where this story gets really interesting. The Cascio siblings have their own separate agreement with the Michael Jackson estate. This has nothing to do with the Chandler family or the biopic reshoots. This is entirely their own situation. According to reporting from EURweb and multiple outlets, the Cascio family reached a confidential settlement with the Jackson estate, reportedly worth around $16 million, paid over 5 years. That settlement reportedly included non disclosure provisions. So they signed a deal. They received millions of dollars. The estate was making payments. But according to those same reports, the payments stopped in 2025. Negotiations broke down, and the February 2026 federal lawsuit followed. And then while that lawsuit is pending, they go on 60 Minutes Australia. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I want to be clear. This is my opinion, and everything is allegedly. But when I look at this, I have to ask if you signed a confidential settlement with non disclosure provisions, and then you go on international television and describe these alleged events in graphic detail, is that a potential violation of the agreement you already signed? Because the estate has already proven through the biopic situation with a completely different family that these kinds of settlement clauses have real legal consequences. The question is whether the Cascio family owned agreement has the same kind of teeth. The estate attorney, Marty Singer, has told TMZ directly, and I'm quoting, "This is a desperate money grab by additional members of the Cascio family who have hopped on the bandwagon with their own brother, Frank, who is already being sued in arbitration for civil extortion." And the Beverly Hills court judge, according to the Herald Times, reporting from January 26, indicated he was unlikely to void the original settlement, noting that the evidence did not support the claim that the family was forced to sign in it. That is not a small detail. Now, let me tell you what the siblings actually said on 60 Minutes Australia, because the internet has been on fire since this aired on May 10th. According to reporting from Digital Music News covering the interview, the siblings alleged that Jackson supplied them with what he called Jesus juice, which was wine, and Disney juice, which was hard liquor. When they were children, Marie Nicole claimed Jackson gave her Xanax and Vicodin at 11 years old. According to the Nightly's coverage of the interview, Eddie Castillo alleged that the abuse began during the 1993 Dangerous World Tour. Eddie said, and I'm quoting, "That's when the first kiss happened. That was the start of my time with Michael of being molested." According to Digital Music News, the siblings also alleged that Jackson coached them on what to say if their parents or police ever questioned them, essentially training them to believe nothing wrong was happening. Now, I hear all of that, and I want to be clear. I am not here to dismiss anyone's pain. If something happened to these people, that matters. But I'm also not going to pretend that this timeline does not raise serious questions about motivation and time. And this is where I want to bring it back to something I covered in my Paris Jackson video, because Paris saw something coming with this biopic that a lot of people missed. Well, according to Variety, Paris Jackson and BG Jackson had zero involvement in the production of the biopic. The film was controlled largely by the estate, with Michael Jackson's son Prince serving as executive producer. Paris publicly raised concerns about who was controlling the narrative and what was being left out. And now we are seeing exactly what she was talking about. The biopic was made with the estate controlling the story. A separate lawsuit involving a completely different family forced the removal of abuse allegations from the film entirely. The biopics made over $500 million. The Cascio settlement payments reportedly stopped. The Casillos file a lawsuit. The Casillos go on 60 Minutes. Paris Jackson was not involved in any of this, and she told us she had concerns. I think those concerns were valid. If you haven't watched my Paris Jackson video, the link is in the description because that video gives you the foundation for everything that's happening right now. Here's where I'm at with it, and this is strictly my opinion. I find it very difficult to look at this timeline and not see a financial strategy, a settlement that was already reached, payments that reportedly stopped, a biopic that made $500 million, a lawsuit filed as the movie hits theaters, and a 60-minute interview while the film is still in theaters. Michael Jackson was acquitted by a jury in 2005. He cannot defend himself. He has been dead since 2009, and every allegation that comes after his death carries zero legal risk for defamation because you cannot defame a dead person. This is not my opinion. That is what the estate's own attorney pointed out publicly. Do I know what happened behind closed doors on Neverland? No. Nobody outside of those rooms do. But I do know that 30 years of public defense, a prior confidential settlement, stop payments, and a $500 million movie in theaters make for a very suspicious combination. And my final question is this. The estate already proved with a completely separate family that settlement clauses connected to Michael Jackson accusations are powerful enough to force Hollywood to reshoot a major film. If the Castillo family signed their own settlement with their own non disclosure provisions, somebody needs to be asking whether that 60 Minutes interview just created a whole legal problem. Because, in my opinion, this story is far from over. Before you go, if you made it this far, you are already part of the royal community. And I need you to do 4 things right now. Hit that subscribe button because we are building something here, and I do not want you to miss a single drop. Like this video if I gave you something to think about today. Share it with somebody who needs to see it because the tea is always piping hot and always better when you drink it with somebody like me. And drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you want to support this channel and keep the crown going and the royal kingdom growing, I have something for everybody in my bio links. If you want to learn more about the legacy of Michael Jackson for yourself or for your kids, I have 2 books in my Amazon store in which I'm still building. The first is Moonwalk, Michael's own memoir in his own words. And for the kids, there is an incredible biography called Michael Jackson, an inspiring biography for kids. The King of Pop's journey from a small town to global fame. Both the links are in the description. And if this story today had you thinking about power, money, and protecting yourself, then my personal ebook, exactly what you need, is called Prenups and Power Moves, a simple, honest guide to money protection and power in relationships with no legal jargon, no fear mongering, just clarity, confidence, and grown folk decisions. Because love is beautiful, but security is powerful. That link is in the in the description as well. All links, the ebooks, the books, everything are in the description. Go check them out and let's keep building this royal community together. I'm Mackenzie. You've been crowned. See you in the next one.